All my achievements are products of people that set aside egos, deciding instead that they work for me, even though most of the work that they did was for free, though, because I ain't have no cash, but I had they backs. So I ain't feel shy. I looked him right in the eye like a stand-up guy and asked, hey, will you do this as a favor? Promise I'll repay you later. We just shook hands. We ain't put it on paper. Then they delivered like finishing labor.
It is not every single day I have the opportunity to bring in a rapper, but more importantly, one that has a message that he shares within each and every single one of his songs. I am so excited to introduce who we have here with us today. Toby Raps is a rapper here in Cleveland. And before I dive too far into it, I want to ask him himself, who is Toby Raps?
That is the $1,000,000 question. Toby Raps is the stage name of Ryan Devitt Toby, born September 22nd, 1992, at Hillcrest Hospital in Mayfield, Ohio. Hillcrest, shout out. And it's it's just like a stage persona I think that I've been building for several years. So I graduated from Cleveland State, and I then, instead of using my college degree, just went on to be a street musician on East 4th Street. I'd play guitar, and then I would ask people to give me topics, and I would just make up songs off the top of my head just just anyone who was willing to give me the time of day. And I did that from like 2015 through 2018. And that was kind of like just like my building of just like what it is to kind of just, it's still your stage name is always your stage persona, unless it's like wildly different from yourself. I guess you have that, and then you have the closer to yourself. Just, to build like an over exaggerated kind of version of myself, typically really based around the motto, which is so crazy that this is your podcast. So like my mantra and like kind of my motto is make people smile. It's like it's my first tattoo, and it's like it's just kind of like my brand and my mantra. So I've kind of built my whole stage persona off of that phrase, and just kind of try not to stray too far away from anything that I make centering around that topic. Just making people smile, positivity, and even if I'm saying like delving into like a song that I'm writing that's maybe deeper, or maybe has like some sort of negative connotation to it, or if I'm talking about, I don't know, mental health, depression, whatever, always kind of finding a way to refocus it on how can we be optimistic about this maybe darker topic,
Absolutely. And talking about your music, I was listening to one of your songs that is my favorite, and it was with Phone Died.
Ah, love that one,
That
man.
is such a good song.
Thank you, man. That's like one of my favorite songs I've written.
It is so catchy, and quite frankly, it should 100% be like just coined as an absolute summer bop.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, man. I love that song so much.
I mean, between like the hook itself, but more importantly, the story that you're telling too. Like, it's not just something catchy. It is something that shares a message about positivity. And you are just as good of a musician as you are a storyteller.
Thank you.
And that's huge for being able to connect with people. How do you even go about starting the process of writing a song?
So I think it comes back to like when I was a street performer, when people would just like give me topics. I think that's kind of like framed songwriting for me, where it always started with people gave me a topic, and my brain usually would work backwards. So if someone gave me a topic, I would know that like that topic is the hook. You couldn't start with, we were talking off camera about just like, how do you, like, you can't start with the most viral thing that you can imagine. You want to build to something. So like in that little party trick that I was doing, it would be like if someone said, I want to do about unicorns, your first lyric can't be unicorns, or else the whole surprise is kind of blown right there. So I would come up with a verse and then into a chorus, and unicorns is usually like the punchline of the chorus. So it's like has the biggest payoff. So I think that's kind of trained my brain to come up with big topics first. And then from a topic, like with Phone Died, I knew I just moved into a house by myself. It was last year. And with that, I'm used to living with a bunch of people, so I'd kind of have my conscious attention taken by friends or what have you. And now it was just by myself, and you kind of like have to reframe like what it is to live by yourself. And what I was doing was either going out and just like partying all the time, or if I wasn't doing that, I was in my house and I was just on my phone. And I was really starting to like notice the weight that had on like my consciousness and just like my brain. And I just like was like, I hope my phone dies, like, and I don't charge it. I just like can't take it. I was getting headaches, like even to a certain degree. So then I kind of had that. I was like, okay, I want to write a song about this. And because I think as a songwriter, you think that like I can solve my problems if I'm aware of it by thinking through something and having a song. And then that song is my thing I repeat to myself to remind myself I have this problem. And you kind of write the solution through the song and hope that by singing it all the time, maybe I will get over it. I will admit that my screen time is still pretty abysmal, but we're working through it. So it's like that was my idea. Was I hope my phone dies was kind of like the thing I said to myself on my couch when I was on my phone. And then from there, you write the hook. I try to think of something that's like relatively catchy that has centers around that little phrase that I come up with, which is the topic. And then once I have a hook that I think I'm happy with, then I write a verse that largely like kind of expounds on it, it's extrapolate. I don't know what the word is, but because, builds on the idea of the hook that I created.
I can only imagine what the inside of your mind is like.
It's a lot of rhyming all the time. It's a lot of rhyming.
Music's always playing.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, always melodies of some sort or just like, yeah, and it's like tough to, I think just any artist in general probably does this. You're living in an experience, but you're also, there's just like another part of your brain that is analyzing that experience and wondering in like, how can we like take this and turn it into art? Like it's basically you're a living machine and you need to live experiences and be present in those experiences. But part of the back of your head is always thinking like, how do I turn this into a song? Or how do I turn, painters, how do I turn this into a painting? How can I churn out creating? And it's just a lifelong journey.
Jerry Seinfeld had an interview where he talked about exactly that. And it was, you are never not thinking about either what it is that you're passionate about or what it is that you feel like you are meant to do. And for him, with his comedy being a lot of situational comedy of just things happening, he said he's always on. And someone said, well, isn't that exhausting? How do you even go about being on all the time? And he's like, well, it's not necessarily something that you can turn off.
It's just your identity.
It's a matter of who I am, who you are, who we are. But I think what's important to recognize and why I'm still amazed by what it is that your mind looks like if we were to visualize it is something that of like a spider web. At the very beginning, you use that example of like unicorn, well, like you said, you can't just say unicorn, or you can't just do anything exactly with the word unicorn, maybe at that point in time. So what does it do? It spider webs out into a whole 360 degrees. And then it's your creativity for what comes from that main point that then you're connecting the dots all for it to eventually lead up to that. And that's crazy for you to do all through just someone giving it to you on the street.
Yeah, man. It's a wild thing to, and I'm like, I've been doing it for years, and then there's people who like still amaze me. Like there's a guy named Harry Mack. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So he's a freestyle rapper. I actually ran into him in Los Angeles. So I lived in Los Angeles in 2019 through 2020, and then moved back for the pandemic. But just like one day, he does like, he brings like a boombox and he'll go up to people and say, excuse me, do you mind if I freestyle rap for you? And then he asks you to give him some words. And he's the best freestyle rapper on the planet. It's insane what this guy does. And same thing, just like his brain, I can't even imagine how it works. People give him these 3 words and then he'll do these like, his flow is incredible. And then the way his mind works, same thing with you is that you're saying like a spider web. I've kind of taken, especially with freestyling, rapping, I know it's the word is the punchline, and you come up with a setup, and then you find a way to make it rhyme into the word, and you're just kind of juggling like that, and just like observing that guy's brain. It's like, I don't even know how this works. And I'm just like, it's just crazy how the creative mind works. And honestly, well, this is kind of backtracking, but you said the thing about Jerry Seinfeld and like doing it is just like who I am. I was really into Taoism when I was in college, as I think we all do. We all go through an Eastern spiritual phase in college. And I mean, it's still something that I think about all the time. And there's a thing in Taoism called Wu Wei, which is it's the concept of effortless action. And I think that's like when you find something that is like your purpose, or that you are, I mean, I imagine this is true with you too, with this podcast. Like when you find something that is, it feels like it really connects with your identity, you can do 10,000 hours of work for it, and it never truly feels like you're doing work, really. It's just like the thing that, you know, it's the thing that makes you you. It's the thing that makes living worth living. And I think that's when you find something like that, it's very special, and like hold on to it with everything you can.
Absolutely. And that's why I am so fortunate for even the luck that we have had, and by we I mean me, like I'm the only one that's doing the recording, the editing, the whole hosting of all of it. But like I couldn't be more appreciative of the fact that like it's catching on, people are enjoying it, because it allows me the opportunity to have conversations with people like yourselves.
Yeah,
that,
I found you through the internet.
Right.
Like I didn't know you. Besides of your efforts and your
Yes.
creativity that you put out there directly is a way that I found you. I didn't like, yeah, we didn't meet. It's just through something you created, I found you.
Yes. And it's funny because I try to think for myself, okay, like what brought me to this point? How did I even think about doing this? How did I come to the point of putting it together? And that's kind of the question that I have from you. Like, where did you get your creativity from? Is it just who you are? Are you able to attribute it to something?
Well, I guess I would attribute a lot of it. I mean, you got to go back, because if we're going back to like childhood. My dad is a musician as well. He's been, so he used to, even just kind of directly correlating like my father to like what I was doing on the street with like the improv. My dad would like sing little freestyle songs at the edge of my bed, just like silly little songs, just 4-chord little ditties when I was a child. And I think, that had a profound effect on me. He bought me my first guitar. And then my mom too has also been like super, like very helpful and just like supportive of my life and vision, especially because like she's like a CEO type. And so obviously if that's the life, it's tough to just like encourage your child to be like, yeah, do this life that I have no idea about. But she's been very supportive. She's been very supportive in that respect. But yeah, the creativity I think comes a lot from my dad, specifically from the musical aspect. He's just been kind of he's just like a lifelong kind of like songbird, musician, rocker type. And so I would attribute it a lot to that. And then in high school, my senior year, I played hockey all through my life. Played sports because I just like, I don't know, for some reason I just like thought that I just like very much thought that was what was cool. And I don't know, it's just, I fell right into it, and I always thought I was funny, and I always thought that I enjoyed making people laugh and being the center of attention, but I never really like realized that I could do that as like a way of living until my senior year in high school. I got into like the plays and stuff, and I went to CSU for theater actually. And then CSU, I met my producer and best friend. His name's Chris DeCola, and my other best friend, his name's James Begin. James Begin's in a band called Tropodelic, and they're really, honestly, they're huge for my whole career because they tour all the time. They're on the tour with the Dirty Heads right now, and Lupe Fiasco and Yellow Wolf. Dude, he's killing it. James Begin, shout out, love you. So I met the two of them at an open mic at CSU, and them, along with my friend Josh Ritchie, a couple other friends of mine at CSU, we would go door to door in the dorms, and we would do like what I would eventually do on the street is ask only girls. I mean, we're just college kids trying to get chicks. Right. And we would knock on girls' dorms, and we'd ask them to give us topics, and we would make up songs. We'd call it the EC. It's the Euclid Commons, the EC floor tour. And we would do that instead of going out to bars. We would just like do that for, so I think that's kind of just been probably the trajectory of my creativity. Starts with my dad, then eventually kind of sports for a while, but just, I would do little bits in the locker rooms, and then probably theater, and then meeting Chris and James. and Josh were very, very big in my life. And then kind of taking that leap after college, and then just full-fledged, can I make creativity my living? Like, I depend on it and the generosity of others for my like life, and which helped that I lived in a house with 9 other people and my rent was $100, and we like threw house shows in our basement, and just like it was a full-fledged creative living, which is beautiful. I'd never do it again. Yes. I wouldn't do it at 30, but like it was an amazing way to live my early 20s.
Oh goodness, that is amazing. Now, who is a part of your team, or even if they're not necessarily a part of your team, who allows you to not have everything on your plate?
Chris DeCola is probably my biggest right-hand man.
Can you list out the roles of the people from the point of like you singing to it literally getting out on Spotify? Like, how does something come through fruition?
I go to the studio every week with Chris, and I'll usually have like an idea. And Chris is like incredible guitar player, amazing producer. He works at a studio called Signal Flow Studios. It's in Steelyard. It's where I record, and he's really built a business for himself. I'm super proud of that kid. And so we work together. And so he'd be the producer, and I'm starting to get better into the producing, but it's like he's just so good at the programs that like I have ideas but don't know. I'm not going to put the 10,000 hours into learning Logic Pro. He's just so good at it, and like why would I? So we kind of create the beat together, but it's largely the beat is like Chris's department, and then I'll have the lyrics written, and I have the vision for the song, and from there we create the song. Our friend Jake Pastor is the person who masters it, so it gets mixed. And when the song's like kind of polished and we think we have a good mix, we send it to Jake Pastor. He does the mastering, makes it, studio quality and like loud. And then I do all the uploading, and it's just, you go online. It's DistroKid is what I use. You just kind of upload it from there. Josh Ritchie, another best friend, he's the photographer. Usually I like my artwork to be of me. Like I like to conceptualize the song and like, how can I make this an image? Also largely because I just don't have a lot of like drawing artists just like in my team, and Josh is just a great photographer. So I try to conceptualize the song as an image, and then from there I buy whatever I need to buy for like, the props for the image, take the picture, upload it, and then I try to put out some sort of like visual aspect, like a video. And for that, my friend, his name is Misha. Dude, he is incredible. His name is Misha Tot, and Misha Tot, Instatot is his Instagram. And he's just this like wild Russian guy, lives in LA or lives in Atlanta, and he makes a bunch of movies, and he's just like, he's so good. He's just like, he's got a really good eye for like comedic. I think everything that I do is like largely, it's serious but comedic. I try to compare myself to like J. Cole meets Lil Dicky. Just like it's everything serious, but like it has like I don't take myself like incredibly too seriously. I think that's like, just for me as a consumer, I like when things have an air of cheekiness to them, and Misha's really good with that. He has just like a good eye for like comedic timing. So I'll come up with usually like, okay, so there's this song. Like I have a song coming out on June 23rd, and I guess I don't know when this airs, but June 23rd, if it's already passed, you guys should check out. It's called Psycho Pipe Dream. And I have a song it's called Psycho Pipe Dream, and it's about social anxiety and people pleasing. So then I had that song, and I had to conceptualize, okay, so how do I make this into like a 3-minute little video? So I thought, okay, people pleasing. I think that the one time that or like social anxiety too, is like the one time that you think that like everyone is there for you and obviously everyone loves you is your birthday party. So I took the idea of a birthday party, but then I wanted to like turn it into like what social anxiety feels, that like somehow everybody hates me, even though it's probably all of my friends that I'm around. Somehow everybody hates me. So it's my birthday party, but everyone is bullying me. And so I have like that concept, and then I bring that concept to Misha, and Misha's just like super good director. He's like, okay, got it. And then he has different ideas. And then from there, I usually corral extras, and then I buy what I need to buy, and then we pick a day. I had a feature on the thing. It was called Slake Duransky. He's from Nashville. So I flew him and Misha in. So I do a lot of the administrative work. But I have a team. My friend James, Begin of Trabadelic, has this saying that it takes a village. So like largely these are my things. So if anyone's going to do anything, I have to ask them. It's largely if it's my thing, it largely does all fall on me. But nothing I can do can get done without the people around me, and that's just like a little snapshot of a lot like some of the biggest people that help me out. And then for my live show, I've been playing with this guy named Josh LaGuardia. He's a drummer, and then he takes the live show and kind of like he drums and like puts the songs together, and like we've kind of created a live show together. So that's like I would say that's like a little snapshot of like some of my team.
Yeah, and the fact that you have been able to develop a team that all work as a cohesive unit and achieve the results, the image, and the art that you are looking to is huge. I mean, think about that. Like, you have put the trust in your teammates to say, these are my ideas, this is what I'm thinking, and then it ends up with being something that you're like, yes. Like you literally made it happen through directing, through the mastering, through the producing. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you've been able to cultivate this team to be able to achieve those results is, I'm sure, something that a lot of people don't have, which allows you the opportunity to make things so much easier to put together from start to finish.
Yeah, that's huge. Anyone who's a creative, I would say that's like my advice to anybody is to like understand everybody has their own dreams. So largely, if you want to get anything done, you have to know that first and you have to respect that. So it is on you. Like you can't expect people to just want to work for you without you explicitly having the idea and the vision first. But once you have that, people are willing to like help you out. So like understand that like it's on you to like get the ball rolling because everybody's working on their own things. But once you do have a concrete idea, understand that like you need to let other people get involved to make something that's like really worth doing something. I mean, unless you're Bo Burnham, in which case you can do everything by yourself inside. But like largely you're going to need a team of people to rally around you, and you need to, you need to accept that help, and you need to like outsource people to help you with things that you're not a master at, and you really double down on the things that you're good at. And I mean, I do it for anyone too. If I've trusted, I've done it for people. If someone has a vision for something and they're rallying things, I'm like, yeah, dude, let's go. I mean, Mikey Silas is a good example of one. He's in a band called Apostle Jones, and like that dude is an incredible connector of human beings, amazing voice, and just has like a real knack for like bringing talented people together to like achieve something pretty grand. And like anytime he runs some open mics in Cleveland, and like anytime that guy has an idea or a vision, I'm like, dude, down for it. If you need my help in any way, I'm like there for you. And I think that's just like people want to rally behind someone who believes in themselves. And so if you can be that person for people, then you'd be surprised how much people will flock to like help you. Even if they have their own dreams, they will flock to help you because, the idea is that when one person wins, everybody wins.
You couldn't be more right. And one of the points that I want to make sure I emphasize that you just made is like it takes a village, and there are people who you have that help you out. I am not familiar with your industry, your community, but what it sounds like is that a lot of you all, unless you give them a reason not to, a lot of people have your back. Because I'd imagine everyone is going through somewhat of the same thing to try to get to the point that they're at. It's not always going to be the same, but I'd imagine there is a sense of similarity with what it is that people are going to get to where they want to be.
100%. Yeah. It's like I have this, I have a lyric, I have a song called Reluctant, and it's basically about the idea of like getting out of your own way and allowing people to do things for you. It's like, I don't know why I'm so reluctant to let good things happen to me. And so like the verse starts off with, all my achievements are products of people that set aside egos, deciding instead that they work for me, even though most of the work that they did was for free though, because I ain't have no cash. but I had they backs. So I ain't feel shy. I looked him right in the eye like a stand-up guy and asked, hey, will you do this as a favor? Promise I'll repay you later. We just shook hands. We ain't put it on paper. Then they delivered like finishing labor. Uh, yeah, so I mean, I think that's just like, don't be afraid. I did a big book that, yeah, I mean, just kind of double downing on that. It takes a village aspect, which, James began. He's really made that his motto. That's like, make people smile is mine. It takes a village is really James's like thing, and I really resonate with it because I think anything any creative does, like you got to stand on the shoulders of giants. You got to like allow people to do things for you. And a book that really kind of changed my life, I read. It's called The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. She was the front woman in a band called the Dresden Dolls, which is a kind of like a theatrical kind of punk group. It was her on a keyboard and a drummer, and she's a singer-songwriter herself. She's from Boston, and she was also a street performer. She was a human statue for years, and that kind of taught her, which is why I read it when I was a street performer, and it kind of taught her the idea of that you have to get good if you're going to be any kind of creative. You have to get comfortable with asking people for favors or to help you, because it's just not possible for you to succeed without being comfortable in that space and being okay with saying no, with understanding no, and you can't be upset when someone says no, because that's part of the art of asking, is understanding there's some no's, but also understanding that there's probably a lot more yeses that are going to come from just having the grace to ask people for what you need. And it's a really good book. She has a TED Talk that's like a 12-minute version of kind of the book condensed, but it all basically comes down to that. It's just she was one of the first person to make $1 million on Kickstarter, which was like that's like the big culmination of that idea, is that she developed these fans and became very familiar and comfortable with asking her fans, like, you love me? Okay, well, I need this, and would you be so generous to help me with this? And like, I think off like 20,000 backers, she made $1 million to like fund an album and a tour. So it's just like, I think that's been a very revolutionary book in my life.
For someone who wants to be able to support you or support other artists, but can't do the producing, the mixing, or maybe even some of these other favors that you're asking, what is it that they can do to support you in the best way? And maybe this could be individually for you, but like, is that going to shows? Is it sharing your, Instagram? Is it sharing your songs on Spotify, Apple Music? Like, what do you find to be most impactful for someone that's looking to help you?
If it's financially, that's amazing, because that helps me. A lot of the things, obviously people do things because they love you, but it does help to like pay, like, if someone's doing a music video for you, I'm going to pay for that, or I'm going to buy the props. Like a lot of the administrative things do largely fall on me, and that, we live in a world around money. So a lot of things I'm just like paying for things to do. So, finances always help. I sell merchandise. So merchandise, obviously buying merch helps, which also usually has my logo. So that creates more awareness of the thing. But if it can't be that, or, coming to shows helps. So, but if it can't be that, follow me on Instagram, follow me on whatever, or show a friend my music, or just listen to my music, tell somebody about it. If they're trying to support me in any ways, I would say just any way to engage with me, whether it be big things of financial contributions or small as just like share a post, like a post, comment. It would be, or just listen to the music. It's, because like, obviously I think we all want to be the biggest, most successful thing. You would love to be going head to head with Joe Rogan, or I don't know, the biggest podcast of the thing. Yeah. And I would love to be on stage with J. Cole, but I think another person who I really admire is, her name's Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. But I've listened to a couple podcasts with her. She's brilliant. And she said that, like, of course we want to be major league. If you get paid millions of dollars for what you do, would be amazing. But largely, when you're doing any creative endeavor, you want to do it for yourself first, because of just the fact that it is spiritually gratifying to have an idea and go through the incremental steps to make that idea come to life. Like the act of creation is like, I mean, not to be too spiritual, but it's a divine act. I mean, what it's to create something out of nothing is, if you believe it or not, I mean, that's what people say God did, So like it is a divine act to bring something out of nothing. And so you should do things just because that's spiritually gratifying. And if you get paid on top of that, that's amazing. But I guess like start there is the biggest thing advice I can give. And so just that makes me feel kind of circling back to what I was talking. I kind of went on a tangent, but like, so like feeling like somebody has been affected by what was just spiritually gratifying to me at all by listening to music and then resonating past that. I mean, that's the biggest way you can support me, is just like and be affected by something that I did for myself and make me feel not alone as a creative would be incredible. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about doing this specific podcast and being able to facilitate these conversations is, all of these people who I have on, they say so many great things. And in some cases, I feel like a lot of them, including yourself, you say things and don't even realize how impactful what you just said is. The opportunity to create something from nothing. I mean, very simply said, but to the point, I can't come up with a rap or a melody or any bit of that to save my life. In the same which way that I don't feel as though I can dance, especially on the same level that a lot of other people can. And it's just like in their body, in their bones. And, I'd like to think that in some cases, some people would look at me doing this and be like, I could never do something like that. But what a profound point that you made to have someone realize that what it is that we are creating and what it is that we are doing is a gift amongst each and every one. And we should look at every person who is creating and be supportive, especially if it's something that they're putting themselves out of their comfort zone to do.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like it's like a law of reciprocity in like human psychology that if you do something for me, I just feel like almost like genetically inclined to help you. Like especially if I know, like, I mean, if anyone who comes to my shows or has helped me, like bought merch or anything, I really feel like, whether maybe it's if you just because you like my music, I feel like inclined to like write something that I feel like is going to be just to keep going, even if it's just to keep going. But like, if someone helps me, like a bunch of people for that music video I was talking about came and just like some people drove, there were like 3 people that drove 3 hours just to be extras in that music video. And like, if any of those people need a favor, I will jump through hoops to do it for them. And I think that's something that you don't want to like exploit, but do understand that it's there, that there is just this like psychological feeling of a need to reciprocate when good things are done to us. Like, I feel like I got to get you back in some way, shape, or form. So like, just be generous with the way that you help people, because they'll probably help you back. I mean, that they may, even if there's no spiritual aspect to karma, there is just like that psychological aspect of it where do good things for people and they will want to help you back, and vice versa. Yeah.
It comes back to just asking. I have been watching this guy on TikTok, and he does the rejection therapy.
What's that?
Where you go every single day and ask for something that you normally wouldn't ask for until you receive no. Until you receive the answer no, you're asking. And I think part of it's because he did it on TikTok where it led to this, but like, it allowed him the opportunity to do like amazing things.
That's so cool.
All because he did was ask.
That's so, dude, it's so powerful. And like our brains, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this thing is in like a lot of us, or at least maybe I'll just speak for myself. In me, I've written a couple songs about it with that reluctant song. I don't know why I'm so reluctant to let good things happen to me. Wrote a song called Self-Sabotage, where the idea is like, I don't know why there's this like feeling of like, nobody wants to help me or nobody wants to do anything. This like negative nagging voice. But like, once you put yourself through like, drills or like, little social experiments to push yourself past that nagging voice, and you allow the world to surprise you in these like fantastic ways. It's pretty profound what you realize, that like a lot of things, your wildest dreams are surprisingly possible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's from Dave, by the way. That idea is
Is that right?
That's from Lil Dicky's TV show, Dave. It's in one of the episodes. But for real, it was very impactful to me. Lil Dicky's a big, role model.
Yes. Didn't he has a special that's been out for a while, didn't he? Was it literally called Dave?
Dave, yes. Yeah. TV show. That's from Dave.
It. Okay.
Yeah. That's the 3rd season. Oh, it's so good, dude.
What's he doing with, he was either like, did a cameo, or is he doing something with Jack Harlow?
He, well, as far as like the TV show, it's so funny. He like, the bit for the whole season was he would just like randomly in a scene, he just be like, who is this guy, man? Like, why? He's just like more and more like peeved at the idea that Jack Harlow's getting popular, and thinking like, who is this guy? And then it all comes into, without spoil, he like meets Jack Harlow later in the season, and then Jack Harlow is just like the rudest person to him.
They start saying some like weird stuff.
Oh, it's so funny, man. It's such a good TV. That dude's a genius. Like, instead of like, he lived the rap career, like he made an album and he toured off of it, and he like, I think the first season of Dave was like self-reflecting, and maybe even the second one was like writing about what happened in his life and maybe over dramatizing it, but largely about himself. And now he's getting to a point where I don't think he's lived any of these things in season 3. And he's just, instead of actually living the life as a rapper, he's writing about what it would be like to live this dream as a rapper. And then, living it inevitably, but like living a fictionalized, over dramatized version of what a rapper's dream. But dude, he's so smart. He's so smart.
Now, do you feel as though with the point that you're at, you are looking to continue to do what you have already been doing, or are you looking to venture out and explore new ways of creativity, whether that be in music, whether that be in film, whether that be in anything?
I think I'm doubling down on music, but I'm trying, like, there is, so speaking on the it takes a village aspect, and I think this is kind of where it's, it's a beautiful phrase, and everything we've talked about is very valid, but there is this one kind of teensy beansy thing about it that's, I would say, a negative aspect of just really taking on the mindset of it takes a village, is that I've kind of written off a lot of aspects of like, I could never do that. So like with the production aspect of music, Chris is so good at it. So I'm like, why would I need to be a producer? And So I would say moving forward, the music is just the thing that I've been doing the longest, and it really brings me a lot of joy. And it's my self-image now. I identify as a musician, as a rapper. So I'm really doubling down on that. But I think moving forward, what I've been like kind of doing is realizing I can't, like, making videos on Instagram or something, like I would usually outsource it. Like, can somebody make me a promo video? I'm like, well, hold on, I can download Splice and like make myself a little lyric video. Or like with the production with Chris, largely he's doing a lot of it, but I'm like, okay, I have valid ideas for production, or like I know how to produce. I've been sitting next to this guy for 10 years. I know what we can do here, or I can have valid ideas in producing, and I've downloaded Logic now too. It's like I can get a sample and a drum kit and at least like create ideas. Or like, yeah, and like even the directing of music videos has been pretty recent in my life. So just, I think it's like realizing, yes, I have more talented people in my life and I still want to utilize them because it's just fun to work and collaborate with people. But as I move forward, just breaking down those barriers of I can't do this because other people are good at it, and just finding new ways to, do things more myself, even if I'm still working with people, just like kind of blur the lines of who's doing what, I think is what I want moving forward.
How familiar are you with the artist Russ?
Pretty familiar. I mean, I don't listen to like a lot of his music, but I follow him. He does those. So I do like the TikTok duet things, and like his open verses are always awesome. I usually do those, and like pretty familiar with his like general rise to success. I've like studied him, not as much as some, but enough.
I really like how he is super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he was on some podcast or some interview and was talking about his start. And it was with like a $500-$600 mic and just like a super simple setup. Recorded great music, and then it just like took off.
Yeah.
But I think what's super important, and this has been a theme that I recognized on the podcast and just what you can see out in the real world, and that is timing. Timing is everything. Timing is everything depending on when you start it, who sees it at the time that they do to get you to where it is that you may want to be. Have you had any happenstance or coincidences or just like, oh my gosh, like how did this happen and work out in the way that it did?
I mean, the one thing with running into Harry Mack was crazy, just because like I didn't even rap with that guy, but I'm a rapper. He was freestyling, and I like anticipated lyrics that were coming, so I was like hyping him up live. And so many people that from Harry Mack's fan base has been like incredibly kind to me. So that was one thing. I mean, just like it's more of like a slow burn, but like I've had some opportunities given to me by Tropidelic, the band that I was speaking, that my friend James is in. I mean, all of those boys are like really my best friends. And like they've just been so generous to me. And I've been on some crazy stages that are basically through the generosity of like my close friends who want to help they know what it's like to grind hard, and they want to help some people skip a few steps maybe. And I mean, myself being one of those people, to skip a few steps to just like share the love and share the wealth. And so, yeah, I mean, I've played like the House of Blues on New Year's Eve in Cleveland, which is just, as far as this city is concerned, maybe there's Jacobs and the Agora, but House of Blues is a pretty incredible stage. And just to be staring at like a sold out crowd and I'm playing, it's just been like pretty surreal. Just like knowing that the 16, I think there's the margin of success, I think, for a lot of artists, and maybe just not even artists, just people doing anything when you start to succeed, is just reminding yourself how your 16-year-old self would just freak out. I have a song with Chip the Ripper, man, which is crazy, which was like wild. My friend Rob like bankrolled it. It's like rap is basically you approach someone, ask for a feature, they give you a price, and then you offer it. And I didn't have the money to afford it. My friend Rob from college loves my music. Bankroll the feature, got Chip the Ripper on a song. It's called Out. I didn't promote that song as much as I probably could have. But yeah, it's like I listened to Chip the Ripper when I was 16 years old and like love it. And I have a song with that guy. Yeah. King Chip. I don't know what he identifies at this point, but one of the two.
It's amazing to me how things just happen to work out. And you come across as someone who is more than willing to take an opportunity that is presented to you and just run with it. Just run with it. So what are you running with now? You're going to continue your you're going to continue your music career, and you're going to continue to do the things that you love. Is that honing in your art on certain types of music? Is that honing it in on certain messages that you are hoping to get across? Like, what's next for you?
Well, next is, so this year I'm releasing a bunch of singles, just because I find them particularly gratifying creatively to not have to like think like if I'm creating, because when you're making an album, it's like any idea that comes, you have to kind of like filter like, okay, but does this fit into the larger body? At least I work like Kendrick Lamar is like one of my biggest inspirations, and like, so concept albums are big for me. All my albums are generally concept albums. And so I've been finding it very creatively gratifying to make singles, just because I don't have to worry about like, how does this fit into the body of work? It's just like, I have an idea, boom, put it out there. So this year it's all singles, but I have most of those written and recorded, and I'm working on my last one, which will be my last release of the year, which is like, could be like December or so. And now I already have about half of an album written. So next for me is it's an album, which I mean, the general idea is it's called Grow Up, and it's like I'm like a child of a human being. I'm 30 years old, and I'm a child. And I think like a part of like turning 30, I think it's a big year for everybody, and it really kind of stimulated in me that like I have had this like false idea that if I accept any sort of responsibility in my life, or if I grow up and, if I accept any sort of adulthood, that this inner child, which I very strongly associate with creativity, is going to die out. And so I'm working on an album right now that it like starts from the point of view of like not wanting to grow up, like, no, I'm never going to grow up because I'm going to be a kid forever, to like accepting the idea that taking on responsibility and having more things that you're in charge of is there's a guy on TikTok, I found a song, and I've kind of like lived, this has been the mantra of the album, is that you can be more happy and less free. The more you take on, the more that you feel proud of. And you'll find that the creativity kind of thrives in that situation, which I've kind of like not really accepted, or like I've kind of been rebelling against for years. So it's like I wrote the childish songs like when I was still kind of, in my early parts of turning 30, when I had the idea of that mindset. And now I've kind of just been living life to kind of imitate art. Like I got a cat. Love my cat. His name is Toby Cats. I'm Toby Raps. And I have a girlfriend who I love very much. I was kind of rebelling against the idea of having like a steady monogamous partner. I have this apartment that I live by myself that I'm very proud of. I have a garden that I take care of. Like just accepting these little responsibilities and like understanding that those are the things, like the more you get older, the more you realize that the things that you have to look after are the things that you eventually become proud of and that make life worth living. And so that's kind of like the takeaway point of the album that I'm kind of still writing. But that's next for me. That's my idea, is to write an album where the idea is that, you can grow up and the child in you the good parts of the kid in you aren't gonna die. Maybe, maybe the part that wants to sleep till noon and leave your house a mess might die out, but maybe it's good that those things are left in the past.
Yeah. How long does it usually take for you to have an idea for a song and then ultimately coming to the point of ready for it to be like either produced or mastered to be finished?
It takes what it takes. I mean, usually with the singles, it's been usually like 2 months ish, just to like a lot. I mean, the song's done. Like this, when the song can be written in like a week. Okay. But it's like then it's fine tuning the production. It was like, I don't like that little bell right there. All right, let's turn that. It's the general structure and skeleton of everything can be done relatively quickly. But then I've just like become more of I think the singles have been good for this too. I've just been fine tuning and become more of a perfectionist, which I've enjoyed. And I'm going to do this with this album, where it's like I will work extra long on a specific song. Whereas like my other albums in the past, when you're working on 15 songs at once, it's just inevitable that the point of like, it's good enough comes significantly sooner than if you're working on one song. Like one song I'll do 2 months, but like, okay, now it's good enough. Where it's like if you're working on an album, 15 songs, you might actually only spend like total time of like, a couple days on one specific song, where you're like thinking about a whole list. You're like, oh, whatever, man, put it out. So the flaws that maybe only I can hear as the artist, just I think there's more of them throughout an album. So I've been taking this time as creating singles to just get in the habit of like, no, this is something that, I mean, me more than any other person, maybe Chris DeCola, but even him, he's got other things he's produced. Like me more than any other person is the person that needs to feel creative gratification and like feel that this is the most perfect, that, art is never finished, just abandoned, but needs to feel that it's the closest it can be to be finished. So I need to take time on all of these songs, so that like looking back when I'm 50 or something, I can look back and, have job well done, and not just twitch over the flaws that I find, I wish I didn't do that double, or I don't like that ad lib, or whatever,
Where do you even start with a song? Is it with the words? Is it with like a melody? Is it like, how do you even get to the point of starting it?
It's largely, sometimes a melody comes into my head. Like sometimes a song just like pops into my head, and I'm like,
and then you start putting words
and then I start putting words on top of it. Usually it's a melody with 2 words. Like usually it comes with like a sentence. And from there I can like I was talking about earlier, I work backwards from that sentence, because I feel like if the idea came to me as like this sentence and this melody, that's the takeaway. So I want to have that be the punchline and like build words around it. So usually I have that come like later in the hook, and have hit the big takeaway. So sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like, I mean, like with this album, Grow Up, it's like, or, you know, a lot of my albums too. My last album was called Make Yourself Happy. So I guess I'll more to talk about that because what Grow Up is a thing that doesn't exist entirely yet. But like, Make Yourself Happy, the idea was that there are things, happiness is a work ethic. And I mean, I was listening to a lot of just like motivational podcasts and like such. The Happiness Lab is one of them. Great podcast. And it's just, I broke the idea of happiness from these self-help books and podcasts into categories. Like, if you do these things routinely, there's a very slim chance you're not. I mean, obviously, mental health is a huge, you know, epidemic, and it's. I mean, as we've become more aware of it, we've become better at diagnosing things, and I think over the years we've let a lot of things slip because we just weren't aware of it, and that is a huge issue. But I think there's also a degree to which, you know, for myself at least, I think like if I'm not happy and I'm just saying that like, oh, I'm depressed, or maybe I'm exaggerating, you know, just like, oh, I'm so sad and like life's not working out, I'm so unhappy. I need to like analyze my life. Like, okay, I say I'm unhappy, but like, am I doing this, that, and the third? So I broke it down into 10 categories. There's like doing nice things for, am I being generous with my time and like showing love to others? A song called Giving Alms, which I open with. Am I drinking water routinely? Am I meditating 10 minutes a day? Am I getting enough 8 hours of sleep? So I broke it down into literally the most basic. There's a song about sleep. Am I exercising? There's a song about exercise. So I broke it down into like, okay, there's 10 ideas of like, if you do these things, exercise, sleep, whatever, your life will, in theory, you should feel some form. And if you don't, then you should probably see a licensed professional. And it starts with that. Like, what is the work ethic of happiness? Like, what am I doing? And then from there, I was like, okay, now let's start with the topics. Sleep. And then I was just like, I really need to get to sleep. I really need to get to sleep. And then I'll hum a melody, and I create songs based off the ideas. So that's been what, like, the last little bit, it's kind of been topics first, melody second, words third. But yeah, so that's when that's kind of what I'm working with Grow Up to with the new one. Just I've broken it down into a general story arc and like plot points, if you will, and then I'm writing songs about what those ideas are.
You can tell that you are passionate about what you do, and based off of what you have been able to produce, you are very good at it. And there's so much more behind your art than just words and sounds. Mm-hmm. You are putting together a masterpiece that incorporates ideas and storytelling. And with all of that, I mean, you can obviously tell that you're happy when you're talking about it, but I wanted to know what makes Toby smile.
That's $1 million question on this podcast, isn't it? I mean, I guess I would say, and kind of just to wrap up like everything we've talked about, what makes me smile recently, and I mean, I guess probably it always has been, but I've really just like become conscious and aware of it, is a job well done. Like making something, having an idea, and like we were talking about, bringing something out of existence from nothing and having an idea and seeing it through and completing something, I think is been the thing that makes me the most happy and satisfied and smile the most. I wrote this lyric in a song that I have. I don't know if it's coming out. I think it's coming out like later this summer with a couple Cleveland rappers that I really like. They're named Malik X and Janari Komet. And it's just about having a good day. And I wrote, I got my confidence back. I got my confidence back. Constantly trying to accomplish a task because I'm at my happiest when there's no time to I'm at my happiest when there's no time to relax. It's a tongue twister. But basically that, just like I feel the happiest when there's less time to do something, therefore I have to like when I feel the best when I'm utilizing my time on this earth, because we have so precious little of it, to the maximum potential, and creating and bringing things into existence and utilizing this beautiful body and mind that I've been, blessed to have. So I think just that has been the thing that makes me smile the most. And doing it with the people that I love and the people that bring me joy, and that lift me up. And I do, I try to do the same for them. Obviously we all slip up and we have our bad days, but that's in theory, the best parts of life for me.
Yeah. Now, if people wanted to continue to see every bit of what it is that you're doing, where do you want to point them towards?
I would say point them towards Toby Raps. Toby Raps on all platforms. Pretty much, if you type in TOBYRAPS on whatever search bar you have, that'll take you to the right place. So yeah, follow along, and I hope to continue to create things that mean a lot to me, and hopefully they can have some sort of effect on other people.
Couldn't be more appreciative of you coming on today and sharing every bit of what goes through your mind. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being vulnerable. It means so much to me that you have played a role in the portfolio of conversations that I'm putting together today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. What you're doing is, like I said, absolutely incredible what you're doing here. And you're an incredible interviewer. This was really, really incredible.